Mindset, a daily dose of practical wit and wisdom with a professional educator and trainer, Amazon best-selling author, United States Marine, television and radio host, Paul G. Markel. Each episode will focus on positive and productive ways to strengthen your mindset and help you improve your relationships, career goals, and overall well-being. Please welcome your host, Paul G. Markel.
Hello and welcome back to Morning Mindset. I am your host, Paul Markel, and we are about to continue with our Morning Mindset book study. Morning Mindset, a 30-day plan for a more positive and productive life. Now, if you just started or you've just discovered this show and you'd like to get your hands on a copy of the Morning Mindset book, I highly suggest that you do that. You can do it via Amazon or Kindle. Or if you would like a signed copy of the book, a few of those are left available, and you can go to morningmindsetpodcast.com. In case you forgot, there actually is a morningmindsetpodcast.com website, and you go there and you follow the links and you get yourself a signed copy of the book. Or you can get yourself an official Morning Mindset coffee mug. Yeah, so you can drink your coffee from the official mug as you listen to the show. How cool is that? All right, let's talk about education, information, and experience and how those all play into our growth as individuals. Now, there are people who have said that experience is the best teacher. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard that over your lifetime. Experience is the best teacher. There's no teacher like experience, and so on and so forth. And that may be true, but it often is the hard way to go about it. Let me give you an example. You have an automobile, you have a car, and you say, I want to be an auto mechanic. And someone says to you, well, you know, experience is the best teacher. So you take a car and you pop the hood and you get underneath and you grab a bunch of tools and you just start taking the engine apart, and then you try to figure out how to put it back together. And that could be one way. I mean, that's experience, right? So you're taking stuff apart. All right. That's your experience. And then you're trying to put it back together and it doesn't work. And so you try again and you try again and you try again. And eventually you figure out, hopefully, how to put everything back together. Now you have experience. But that was kind of the hard way, wasn't it? That was kind of the long way to go about. You know, experience is the best teacher doesn't really help you when it comes to learning the edible plants from the poisonous plants. Edible mushrooms from poisonous toadstools. I wouldn't say that experience is the best teacher in that circumstance, because the experience you get may be dying because you ate the bad toadstool. So instead of just sampling all the different types of mushrooms and toadstools, what you might want to do instead is get education. Now, education comes from whom? Education comes from a person who should be a subject matter expert in that field, whatever that field happens to be, whether it's sports or medicine or mechanics or plumbing or electronics. It's like, you know, if experience is the best teacher when it comes to being an electrician, you probably don't want to tell someone, hey, just take a screwdriver and pliers and go over to that box and replace the wires. You want to give them some education first, because the experience they get might be being shocked across the room or shocked into oblivion. So you want to give them some education. Now, education comes from an instructor, a teacher, a trainer, a person who has been there and done that, has accumulated information and experience, and now they're in a position where they can disseminate it and teach it to you. Many people say that they're going to teach themselves to do blank. It's extremely difficult. It's not impossible, but it's extremely difficult to teach or train yourself because you can't critique yourself. Because when you're doing whatever it is you're doing, you're not looking away, from the outside with another set of eyes. You're not picking up your mistakes. often I've been a coach for a long time. I've been a coach, a trainer, and an instructor for a long time. And I'll be working with a student, and they'll be frustrated. They're extremely frustrated over something. And I walk up, and I watch them, and I make a simple suggestion. But the suggestion that I'm making is based upon my years, actually decades of experience doing it and teaching it. So I make a simple suggestion, they apply that suggestion, and bam, the problem is fixed. And they're amazed. They're like, I didn't even know I was having that problem. Then I changed it, and now I'm moving forward. Yes, that is why education is so important. Now you say, well, what about information? How is information different than education? Information we can glean on our own. We can get information through reading, through watching videos, through listening to tutorials. We can get information from lots of different sources. And one thing that information does is it adds to our education. Oftentimes we find ourselves, we take training classes. I know I've taken innumerable training classes over the years. And it's a week-long class or a 6-month class or a 2-day class, whatever. And then afterwards, I end up following up through reading or videos or, listening to a podcast or what have you. We take that information and we use it to enhance our education. And information also should inspire thought. It should inspire you to think and consider things in a different way, or maybe you may have been missing something. You thought you were good to go, then you read a book and you're like, oh, you know what? I never thought of it that way. Now, let's come all the way back around to experience. Now, we said experience is the best teacher, but that's not necessarily the best way to teach someone how to, skydive or work with electricity or figure out which toadstools are poisonous and which mushrooms you can eat. Experience is a culmination, or it should be a culmination of you taking your education and what you have learned and putting it into practice. You take your education, you take the information you have, you take the skills that you have learned and you've been working on, and you put those into practice in the real world, and then you have valuable experience. Experience is not the best teacher when it comes to skydiving. I don't think you want to be a self-taught skydiver. Do you? I don't. I would rather have a professional instructor teach me and guide me first, then let me get some experience. I don't want to just grab a parachute and say, I know what I'm doing, and start jumping out of planes. That seems to be a very hazardous activity, right? So when it comes to your growth as a person, being productive, positive, having a productive life, you need to focus on education, which you get from a professional, from somebody who hopefully you trust to give you good info, right? To teach you well. Someone who can look from the outside and help you to learn. Education. Information is gleaned from anywhere, from books, from videos, from podcasts, anywhere you can get information. You can absorb information on your own time. And that's why reading is so important. And experience should be you taking the education you have received previously, the skill you've developed, and the information that you've acquired, and putting those into practice in the real world. So that is the last, well, that's not the last, that's, what is it, chapter 5 in the book? I believe that's chapter 5 in the book. So education, information, and experience, they're all important, and they're not necessarily the same. Thank you for joining me today. I am your host, Paul Markel, and I will talk to you again real soon.
Thank you for spending time with us today. To get show notes, submit a topic request, and for more from your host, Paul G. Markel, visit morningmindsetpodcast.com. That's morningmindsetpodcast.com. Please leave a review for this podcast on your favorite podcast player. We appreciate your time and effort, and we look forward to reading your honest feedback.